Hello and welcome to the second video of creating a matrix style animational plugin. So before we start, let's have a look at what we'll be making. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making this animational title. So this is the front end of the widget. If we go to the back end, we will have made the plugin. So we've made one plugin from the last lesson. The reason why I have two is one's finished and one we're still creating. If we go to the widget section, our widget will have two instances or attributes, the title and title2, which will be able to be displayed in the front end. So this is our widget slash plugin that we're creating now. Okay, so in the last video we made our OOP, our Object Oriented Programming plugin class. What we're going to be doing, or in the last video we've added our CSS and our JavaScript to that class. In this video we're going to be connecting up our JavaScript and connecting up our plugin object with our widget class. So I just have show you quickly what I mean by that. So we've created our object, these have made the method, we've created our CSS and JavaScript. The big aim today is to link up the plugin object with the widget object. So that's what we're going to be doing today. However, our 5 tasks that we will specifically be doing is we're going to be creating another action, and this action is going to hook our register widget method to the correct hook. In that method we are going to use the register widget function from the WordPress to register our Matrix Widget. We're going to add some security to our code. We're then going to make sure that the widget file is added in to our plugin code. So we're not only going to use the WordPress function, but we're also going to make sure the file can be found. And the last thing is that we have to make that widget file. So that's what we're going to be doing now. Okay, so if we go to our code that we made in our last video, we've got the plugin main PHP file called Matrix. We've got this index PHP, which stops you directly accessing the plugin. So you have to go through WordPress. We've created a JavaScript folder with a JavaScript file with nothing in it. We have an includes folder, which is where we're going to put our widget file. And then we've created a style CSS in the CSS folder. So that's what we've done. Do remember that you can get this code from the website below in our description. So let's start with the tasks. So the task 1 is to create an action that hooks our widget method to our WordPress method, or hooks our register widget method that we're going to be creating in our class to that hook. So do remember that we are going to be putting our actions, our add actions into the constructor. So we need to add another action, and then we need to make sure that we have the hook. So the hook to attach our method that will register our widget is called the widget init. And again, we need to put an array because the second value is the functional method that's going to be called. Because we're in a class, we're going to call a method, and so we need an array. So the array, the first value, this refers to the object of the class, and the second value is called the method of the class. So we need to now create that method. So what we need to do is go into our class. So we are doing it after this function add scripts. We're going to go down and we're going to just put function add widget. Now because this is in a class, we call this a method and not a function. Within that method, I've just used the WordPress function register widget, and I'm going to register our widget called the Matrix Widget. So if we look back at our tasks now, we have created an action at the top. Again, if you don't know what an action is and why is it so important to understand what this hook is, I would suggest watching the video where I describe the action, filters and hooks, and you can find that in the links below. We've used the register widget function to register our matrix widget, so we've done that. Now we want to add security to our code. So what we need to do first, at the moment this class, nothing will happen to this class because we haven't initialized it. So first what we want to do is we want to initialize the class. So we want to create an object from our class. So this now is the object of our plugin. What happens is it goes through this class, this template as it were, and at the end everything that's created is put into this value. However, because it is WordPress and it's a plugin, we only want one object. We don't want more than one object. So we want to say that if this class doesn't exist, do this, but if it does exist, ignore the code. So what I've done here is, if you see, I've put the initializing of the object within this if statement. So what will happen is this class exists. PHP function checks to see if this class has already been initialized. So I'm saying, if this class has not been initialized, if this class has not had an object created about it, then do this this code. If it has, then don't do this code because we already have that plugin. Okay, so we've added a little bit of security, so that means that you only can make one plugin at a time. You can't do multiple plugins. Now what we need to do is we need to add the widget file to our plugin code. So what we need to do is first go into the include and then create a new file. Now this file is going to be where we put our widget class. So let's call it Matrix Widget, and it's going to be in PHP because that's how WordPress does its backend. So we now created this widget, Matrix Widget class. What we need to do now is make sure that that links up to, or this plugin links with the this widget file. So to do that, we need to use the require once PHP function. However, I think it's again the same idea here. It's always a good idea to put this file exists statement or class exists statement. So what this does is it checks to see if in this pathway there is a file, and if there is not a file, I've just exited it, because if there isn't a widget file at the moment for our plugin, then our plugin doesn't work. So you might as well stop all of it. And then if it is, I've said require once, so get this file and put it in so we can link up our code. What this plugin directory path does is it links it all the way to the WordPress plugin folder and then our matrix folder. So instead of saying the full path, instead of including the whole path, what it's doing is it's saying find out where our plugin folder is, put that absolute path in, and then I'm going to add in the location within my plugin folder of where the file is. Okay, so that's the full That's the full path of our Matrix Widget PHP. But by putting in this, I can actually move the folder, my plugin folder, and it will still work correctly, which is important because we're going to be putting this in the WordPress backend. Okay, so let's have a look at the tasks. So I've added the widget file to our plugin, and you can see that there now. And I've created the widget. Oh no, that's the other way around. I create the widget file, which is there, and I've added the widget file to our plugin using this require once. So I've done all the tasks for this video. Okay, well, before we finish, let's have a look at what it will look at on WordPress. So if we refresh it, at the moment we've got this fatal error, and this is because we haven't made our Matrix widget. So what this means, this is good news, it means that we've linked up our file to this file, and we've registered our widget. So what happens is this function is looking into this file and trying to find our widget class. However, because there is nothing in this file, it's creating an error. So if we just comment that out and save it and then refresh it, it should work again. And then if we go to the back end and go to our plugin, we still have our plugin there, yet nothing's happening. We don't have a plugin, or sorry, we don't have a widget for this yet, and that's what we're going to be creating in the next video. Okay, so these are the important concepts from this video. If you can answer these questions, then you have a good grasp of everything that we covered today. So the first one, well, I guess pause the video and see if you can answer them. So hopefully you've paused the video, let's go through them. So the first one, what keyword do we need to add our widget file to our plugin code? Well, the keyword that we need to add is the require once. So the require once is the PHP function, and this is saying that we want this file once. The plugin direct path, that is telling the computer exactly the pathway that we want to get into that plugin folder. And then we add in our own dynamic place after that. So that's what we need to do to add our widget file. What is the importance of this class exists? Well, it makes sure that you can only create one object from that class. I think it's a good idea when you are creating something, if you only want to create one, to add in just to make sure it adds a little bit more security in or make sure that the code that you are making does exactly what you want it to make, and if it doesn't, a big error occurs so you can spot it immediately. Again, the same with the require once. If you put this if statement, you can capture that error and then do things to it, so maybe it doesn't show that complete that massive error that we saw earlier that stopped the whole WordPress. You can do a number of things if you put an if statement to it. What keyword do we need to create our widget? Well, we need to use that register widget, and then importantly, you need to remember this the name of this widget. So the Matrix widget is going to be the name of our class in our widget file. So we need to make sure that this matches up to the class name. So if you've got all those questions right, you've got a good grasp of the knowledge. If you would like to know how we continue building this thing, subscribe so I can keep you updated with all the videos that will be published soon. Thank you very much, and goodbye.